I'm going to do a quick review here of the Tojiro 240 millimeter Mioroshi Deba. This knife is on loan to me from uh, Brontis, a forum member at Chef's Knives to Go, and I had inquired about the possibility of using a knife like this for breaking down whole fish, and he offered this up so that I could try it out, which was a really brave offer, seeing as how I had never really spent much time breaking down whole fish, and in particular, had never used a single bevel knife. And so, much appreciated for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. Um, some good, some not so good. Um, Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give much of a detailed review of this knife relative to other knives similar to it because I've not used other knives like this before. Um, a few things right off the bat. Well, for one, if I can get my tech savvy shoes on, I will be trying to cut in some video of me using the knife and sharpening the knife. Um, if not, this is pretty much all you're going to get. Um, let's start with sharpening real quick because there is a bit of a mea culpa here. I need to. I had not sharpened. This was the third single bevel knife I've sharpened. Like I said, it was the first I've used, but I've sharpened two others before this. And I don't know if I don't know how it happened, but the Shinogi line is quite wavy now that I've gotten my hands on it. The original factory finish had one of those kind of faux Kasumi finishes, and as that came off, I realized that I had a very wavy Kasumi, and I don't know how that happened. Um, I'm really, from my perspective, it was a learning curve. I consider it kind of a learning curve thing, and I think I was somewhat humbled by the experience of putting this knife on a stone and having it come out very different than I had hoped. Um, I'm actually really, I feel really terrible that this happened with somebody else's knife, though. I would have much preferred to have messed this up if it were mine. As it is, I couldn't fix it, and this is part of what befuddles me, is I have high spots here and here, and they happen very quick in the sharpening process, but what's bizarre is when I tried to kind of bring this section and this section up by concentrating on raising the Shinogi line, I was unable to bring these into line, which makes me wonder, how did I so quickly screw this up and so like diligently unable to do the same thing here? And so, again, kind of just humbled. Really sorry that I couldn't set this straight. I've been in consultation with the owner of the knife to see about making sure that he's happy with you know, being made whole again. But that was one learning thing about using this knife. I will say though, despite the fact that it didn't work out as well as I would have hoped, I really enjoy sharpening single bevel knives. It's a lot of fun. It feels, you get to feel stones in a way that you don't get to feel stones on a double bevel knife. You just simply have so much more contact with the stone. You get to see so much more of the finish the stone imparts on the steel. In a lot of ways, despite my errors, it's actually very easy to do because the sharpening guide is built into the structure of the blade. Um, a few notes about using this knife relative to, say, like I had been cleaning some fish with just my gyotos, and one of the things that this was just a huge improvement over using those knives. It's got so much beef to it that when you set this thing on the spine of a fish and you cut into it, um, it just goes exactly where you're pointing. This thing does not deviate from where you're pointing it at, and that just gives you so much confidence in doing whatever it is you're going to do. And the single bevel rather here, this bevel does a really great job both with riding the carcass to take the fillet off, riding the spine in particular. You kind of just lay this whole thing on there, and you use the Shinogi line almost as a fulcrum so that you actually lay that shinogi line just kind of right in there, and it's extremely intuitive. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but it worked really well for me, at least insofar as me being a complete noob, it worked well for me. You just lay that kind of the ridge between the blade road and the blade flat right in onto that spine, and you just kind of ride the shinogi, and so you never get it biting in, you never get it riding up. It just rides across there, and it is just like butter. And you get the same effect when you're filleting the fish, where or rather skinning it, skinning the fillet. You cut down into it, and as you hold it and pull it through, um, the skin just rides along this blade road so nicely. It's extremely intuitive. The knife does the work for you. I was really impressed with how effective the blade design itself was in the task. And if I'm going to continue buying whole fish the way I've been doing, I'm just going to have me one of these. It's just too good. One thing about this particular example is the Mioroshi Deba kind of splits the design features and the tasks of a Deba, which would be shorter and taller, and Yanagi, which is going to be a lot longer and more of a pure slicer. And this is supposed to be doing both jobs. The knife worked really well, but I have to say that if for just taking a fillet off a fish, I think I'd rather have the Deba, because with so much thickness in the spine at 240 millimeters, this thing is way blade heavy. It's a little bit unwieldy. Um, when I picked it up, I was kind of alarmed. It really does speak to how effective this design is, that in spite of being blade heavy, in spite of that issue, it really it did the work for me. So that really speaks to the design. But I think if I had my druthers, I might go with a Deba going forward. Um, anyhow, the knife did exactly what I wanted it to do. Well, actually, I guess it did something I didn't want it to do. It convinced me I need to buy another knife. Um, so good on the knife, not so good on the pocketbook. But knife did a great job. I wish I had done, again, I just really wish I had done a better job making sure that I could return this knife in as pristine a shape as I received it. And that's on me. And we'll just have to chalk that up to learning curve at this point. So thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.